Greetings everyone, OldClassicGamer here, and I would like to make an announcement. My channel has been on YouTube for exactly 10 years. It's kinda crazy to think about how this many years actually passed by, because I really don't have such a feeling in the brain that like 10 years passed. Like when I look and see the channel created in 2011 and now it's 2021, like it's just mind-blowing. But here I am, 10 years later, still alive, everything is here, and I'm carrying on. That's the only thing I can say. So what I did for this occasion, I think it's a good opportunity. I finished editing one video that I had in production for quite a while, but because I had one surgery and I was recovering from it, editing process was a little slower than expected, but I think it's a pretty good fact that I managed to finish editing right before this anniversary, so I can use this opportunity to present this video as sort of a 10 years celebration. I did a very interesting concept, which I don't know if people are going to like or not, and what's going to be a feedback about it, but basically I pretty much read the entire Crash Bandicoot animated series development bible. And it was quite a long video, but I don't regret reading it. I had fun, and it was certainly an interesting experience, so please let me know what do you think about this concept of like reading something interesting in the long run. Do you find it entertaining to listen to me reading it? Let's see how is this going to be received. It's pretty experimental concept, but I think it's rather unique way for 10 years anniversary, and let's see how the people's response is gonna be about this. Leave your feedback in the comments down below, and tell me what you think about it. I did it 10 years, let's do it to 10 more. So, without further ado, let's check out the video. Roll the clip! Greetings everyone, OldClassicGamer here, and I would like to give a little bit of update regarding my last video where I talked about a cancelled Crash Bandicoot cartoon, which was scheduled to be released later this year on Amazon Prime, but got cancelled by Activision over a dispute with Amazon in regards to how the show's tone is gonna be. I still think it shouldn't have been cancelled. I think Activision should have simply searched for someone else to publish it on some other platform. Why did they limit themselves just for Netflix and Amazon Prime? And after Skylanders Academy, Netflix said they're never gonna work with Activision again, and Amazon Prime and Activision had a dispute, but they're not the only ones out there. I think Hulu or HBO Go would have been a nice alternatives, for example, because Hulu has Animaniacs reboot and HBO got brand new Looney Tunes, so I think those two sites could have been a really good option for Activision to go for, and why they decided to just cancel the show altogether, I have no idea, but I would like to go a little bit more in depth. In last video I just pretty much discussed about a leaked pilot animation, like some sort of test animation, and that was about it, and I went over Reddit posts, but here special thanks to WUMPA Jam from CRASHY News for saving this, because thanks to him I managed to retrieve Crash Bandicoot Animated Series Development Bible, which was originally posted on Reddit but then deleted before I managed to take a look at the thread. So thank you so much, WUMPA Jam, from providing this, and to all of my viewers, check out the CRASHY News. The link is in description. They're one of the best sources you could possibly think of when it comes to discussions about Crash Bandicoot and just sharing news in general, so highly recommend to check it out. And before we start reading this, I also want to say that there's a campaign to get this uncancelled. We are going to signing a petition. The link is also going to be in description. And also, if you're using the social networks such as Twitter, Facebook, whatever, you should use the hashtags ResurrectCrashCartoon, and let's hope that maybe with our help Activision can have a change of heart, and instead of cancelling it, they just find some other platform to publish this cartoon on. Like, I really don't understand what's such a big deal. Why they limit themselves like, oh, Amazon Prime didn't work out, let's cancel it. No, it's not good. I don't like this. So let's hope something can be done for this cartoon to be resurrected. And just to give you guys the idea, what was this cartoon gonna be like, we're going to be taking a look at Crash Bandicoot Animated Series Development Bible, which was ironically maybe written on April 1st. Like, from knowing all this just makes it even more sad, because like, one of you maybe are gonna think that this was a pre-planned joke or something because it says April 1st, but no, this is 100% legit. The date just happened to be April 1st, which I don't know why. They probably didn't expect this to get leaked, so they didn't pay attention on what date is gonna be like, because it wasn't gonna be showcased to the masses, but thankfully it was leaked so we can get more insight what this was. So let's check it out. We can see we have a little bit of illustration here, which is like showing we can see here more characters. We can see Crash and Cortex, which we already saw, but we can also pretty much see Coco, Aku, we can see Nina Cortex, we can see Nitrous Brio, we can see Tiny Tiger, we can see, I believe that's Ripperoo, and we can see Oxide, I believe. I think I'm correct, because I can't really tell it, because they're much in the back and I can't see very well what is it, but yeah, I think I got it right. If I didn't, you can comment and correct me. Let's see. The Crash Bandicoot N.Sane cartoon show. Time to have fun, be absurd, and throw logic out of the window. I really like this catchphrase. The best and funniest cartoons are always about something. Status, desire, control, etc. Something primal or psychological is always at work in them, and the most memorable characters always represent an internal state of some sort that we're all familiar with. Our series is a half-hour collection of 7-minute standalone cartoons full of energy, broad comedy, and very expressive animation, in tradition of classics like the Looney Tunes, fast, funny, wild cartoons with a kidult sense of humor. In the Crash Bandicoot N.Sane cartoon show, our antagonist is Dr. Neo Cortex, a control freak who is always looking for a way to change or manipulate the system. On the other hand, Crash Bandicoot, our hero as it is a laid-back beach bum type who loves his Wumpa fruit, chilling and taking it easy. And then there's Crash's younger sister, Coco, whose dreamy idealism makes her oh so sympathetic and likable. Characters who are imperfect are reliable. Our cast is a healthy combination with all of the right ingredients that set in the stage for wonderful, fun and chaotic comedy storytelling. Our show is inspired by the globally successful Crash Bandicoot games, which have a huge fan base and a long list of characters and fantastic landscapes that lend themselves perfectly to building a vast cartoon universe. And so, we are proud to announce that for the first time in 25-year history, Crash, Cortex, and all of their friends come to television in a much anticipated series where we get to celebrate all that is Crash Bandicoot, so beloved that a modern-day classic is about to be born. But what does it all mean? We live in a universe that moves constantly toward chaos, and we spend our lives trying to slow it down. We repaint our houses to delay the inevitable deterioration. We pour our coffee into thermos to delay the loss of heat. We moisturize our skin to delay its aging. Nearly everything we do in life is a struggle against entropy. But without entropy, our lives would lack purpose. Nothing would need tending to. There would be no need for creativity or innovation. The Crash Bandicoot N.Sane cartoon show is a celebration of entropy. Crash embodies the natural chaos of our world in an enthusiastic, inspiring, life-affirming manner. It inspires us to embrace the unexpected. Dr. Neo Cortex, on the other hand, represents the darker side of entropy. In our existential struggle to impose order, we can grasp too tightly by imposing our vision of order on others. We can rage against a universe rigged against us and fail to see the fleeting beauty in the moments of balance that define our lives. If Cortex can't have the world ordered according to his rules, he'll opt for complete mayhem. And Crash's younger sister Coco, Bandicoot, is all about balance. She redirects Crash's unbridled ambitiousness toward utility while countering Cortex's maniacal quest for mayhem. Who's this Crash Bandicoot guy and what's his deal? Crash was once an ordinary Bandicoot before he was snatched by the evil Dr. Neo Cortex and subjected to the Evolver Ray, a device Cortex was using to create an army of super mutant animals he intended to use to take over the world.
Of course!
Cortex's plan was to make Crash the general of his Cortex commandos, but the experiment went haywire and Crash was deemed unworthy of being in Cortex's army. Crash escaped from Cortex's lab, setting off an unexpected dynamic that would produce a classic goody-baddie relationship that has continued for 25 years. And so it begins, or really continues, in our series. Crash travels across the fantastic WUMPA Islands, opposing Cortex and his schemes for world domination, defeating Cortex's comically useless henchmen, and of course delivering the whole lot of funny along the way. The show. But let's be clear here. We are not doing a show about a video game. Like Looney Tunes, the Crash Bandicoot N.Sane cartoon show features a cast of strong, recurring characters with distinct personalities that are unforgettable and stand in their own short cartoon stories. They are finally free to get into just the right kind of trouble we expect, cartoon trouble, and we will bring it in all kinds of piles. Of course, we have our already rabid and loyal fan base in our clutches, but we are also going to build a new audience with new fans who may not yet be familiar with Crash Bandicoot but love a great cartoon and side-splitting laugh. And who doesn't like a good laugh? The animated series targets kiddos, made in age 25, the core audience of nostalgic adults who were in their pre-teens when Crash was born, while also aiming towards new Bandicoots who love chaos and cartoons because our show is smart, funny, and doesn't talk down to anyone. Now this is what I like. This is what the show should be like. This is how the target audience is good, and I can see why Activision had a dispute with Amazon, who wanted it to be only for kids. But I still don't approve them canceling the show, and I think they should have just went for someone else to publish it. Let's see. Show construction. Episodes will be standalone 7-minute stories, but we can also build them into a half-hour format where, adding to the lunacy, we will include very short, crazy and irrelevant bumpers and interstitials in between the 7-minute cartoons. Most will be animated, but some may even be live action. This is interesting. The ability to move locations, change climates, and bounce between characters all within the same familiar world is key to a long-term success. Examples include phony commercials for made-up toys or insane products pitched by our various characters, fake movie trailers featuring our characters, short improv-style interviews with our cast, and quick one-gag setups. In a half-hour format, these shorts, 20-second segments, will lead into each 7-minute standalone story. This kind of absurdity will ramp up the funny while keeping the show feeling completely silly, freeform, unfiltered, and generally original. They're also great to just put out there to entertain on social media and in digital zeitgeist. The world of Crash Bandicoot. Art direction. While the games are produced in CGI, our serious animation will be drawn 2D classic animation, very cartoony, expressive, squash and stretch style. Elasticity is what we are going for, and drawing the show this way allows us to go as far as our imagination will take us, and with our vision and the team to execute probably a whole lot further than that. Locations. Welcome to the mysterious and otherworldly WUMPA Islands, where of course WUMPA Island is our main characters live. However, there are other islands in the chain with limitless terrains, ice and snow, fantasy, forest, tropical, swampy, jungle, spooky, an endless and playful place more than suitable for Crash and his friends to travel, play, create total chaos. Main characters. Crash Bandicoot is our hero. He's a bandicoot, duh. He lives in the now and just wants to chill, snooze, seize those moments of joy when they come. A juicy Wumpa fruit, the perfect wave, fresh powder on the slopes, a zipline to Wumpa Paradise mysteriously constructed next to his hammock where he snoozes. But when someone needs help, Crash is the first to spring into action. Needing help to Crash means liberation from restraint. Let's be honest, if you need help building a deck, he's not your guy. He'd be a game, but you would most likely end the day roasting marshmallows over a bonfire of the lumber you bought rather than admiring your new deck. Overall, Crash has a wacky, cartoonish personality. Chaotic good would be another way to describe this Bandicoot. He combines a good heart with a free spirit. He's a tornado, but a good one. He's not, but also lovable, appealing hero. Crash's life would be a whole lot easier if Cortex would just leave him alone. Crash is an upbeat character, but he's also an emotional one who feels the whole range. He'll fall in love, laugh, cry at the slightest provocation. It's a part of what makes him so sympathetic. Crash loves Wumpa fruit. Like carrots to Bugs Bunny, Wumpa fruit is to Crash. Wumpa fruit are apple-shaped fruits that Crash finds irresistible, a weakness that can easily sidetrack Crash off course and into a whole lot of chaos. Crash can't talk, but he doesn't need to. His outsized expressions don't leave room to wonder how he's feeling. He's happy to let everyone else chatter. A big dumb grin is all he needs. When he communicates, it will be in Australian sounding gibberish, and weirdly, other characters will understand and interpret him. Our audience will always know how Crash is feeling because gibberish is a universal language that we all can understand. Crash has a danger-loving, fearless nature and loves a good scruffle with those who deserve it, but prefers relaxing in the sun and rarely seeks out trouble undeliberately. His plans are often disrupted by an antagonist, usually led by Dr. Neo Cortex, who unleashes some ridiculous plan that will put Crash into the adventure du jour. Easily distracted, he will often plunge straight into action despite advice from his spirit guide Aku Aku. Whatever the cause, Crash is not known for his anger, so his response to adversity is more in line with the Max Bros or Bugs Bunny. Crash isn't a guy to hold a grudge even towards his greatest enemies. Crash is unequally Gen X. He's a slacker at heat but impulsive and escapist, and his temperamental archetype will be kept in our writers' back pockets. Crash's personality though. Starting with the original trilogy, Crash is the subject of an experiment gone wrong. He's a character that acted upon and thrust into situation rather than the one who actively seeks out danger and mayhem. He does not pick up on things very quickly and has an endearing cluelessness that comes around in an irrelevant way. The world is happening to Crash. Crash is not driving the world. This is really a key revelation that makes Crash much more likable character. References to other IP that are similar to Crash include characters like Forrest Gump, because things are always happening to him even though he's not looking for excitement or adventure, and he always ends up on top. John McClane, always in the wrong place at the right time. Jackie Chan, who elegantly stumbles through dangerous situation, and Owen Wilson, who does a great job playing the lovable, clueless goof-off. Crash is an anti-hero. He does not have any special powers, but happens to always get the job done and or come on top. Crash is what would happen if a golden retriever tried to fill the shoes of Bugs Bunny. He'd like to be a cool prankster rebel who doesn't care what you think, but really nothing makes him happier than making other people smile. He always sees the best in people, which combined with his, let's say, simpleness, makes him naturally trusting and forgiving. He'd be happy if everyone just got along, and sometimes that desire blinds him to the reality that he does in fact have enemies. Dr. Neo Cortex was born as the youngest son in the family of circus clowns. Cortex's full birth name is given as Neo Periwinkle Cortex. Unlike the rest of his family, Cortex was sickly introverted and preferred studying science over making people laugh. Because of this, he bore the brunt of numerous jokes, which would culminate in large N standing for nerd being tattooed onto his head at the age of 3 by a particularly cruel group of performers. Well, that's an interesting. So N is not for Neo, but for nerd. But luckily he has a name with an N, so he can always cover the true meaning of it. Sometime afterward, a freak explosion implicated caused by Cortex would incapacitate his entire family and leave Cortex to fend for himself. He needed to take control not just over his life but over the entire world. Our primary antagonist is main villain Cortex, that himself very serious. He believes without a question that he is the smartest and funniest one in the room, which is definitely not true because our writers are, but he is the most insecure and doesn't take much to jangle his over-inflected ego. Cortex embodies the classic traits of your classic mad scientist psychopathy, being short-tempered, reckless, and having no apparent conscience. The guy is less interested in science as a discipline, but more as a means to his nefarious ends. He won't be content until he rules the world, though heaven knows what he'd do with it once he had it. Space conquest, probably. Cortex is easily angered, which, despite his intellect, he hasn't recognized as a weakness. Something his enemies could take advantage of if they're clever. He has a fragile ego and his past failures haunt him. But the compelling force, the gripping obsession that drives Cortex is the shame he feels over the failed experiment that produced Crash, whose very existence is a taunting reminder of his lost dream of the Cortex Commandos, which on the same level he knows is indicative of the fundamental truth about himself. He is simply not very good at what he does. Cortex is obsessed with control over all that surrounds him and getting rid of that blasted Crash Bandicoot once and for all. Although Cortex talks big and acts confident, he becomes a jittery, spineless, nervous wreck when put in the face of extreme and immediate danger. Example, running out of ammo while fighting enemies, having a plan fail utterly, etc. He'll do anything to do and ingratiate his enemies while confronted with defeat. And like any good insane cartoon baddie, when he's alone, he reveals a softer, perhaps sadder side. Could it be that all those early tragedies are what turned him into such a villain? That he's not really such a bad guy? There's a hope for him yet? Nah. Coco Bandicoot is the highly intelligent, cute, and spirited adventure-loving younger sister of Crash. Coco is a whiz with computers and helps her big brother with any technological problems that arise in adventures that require more intelligence than Crash supplies, which is many of them. In the episode Mine, All Mine, it's Coco that deciphers the treasure map that leads she and Crash to the secret treasure-filled mountain. Coco handles the navigation, Crash handles all the booby traps. Coco has a highly ecological mindset. She loves everything natural and all animals, even the ones that may or may not really exist. Magic ponies, unicorns, rainbows, fairies. Coco loves them, to the point where we wonder if she may be just a little crazy. She often gets in between Cortex and Crash and tempers the chaos to make sure they're preserving their idyllic WUMPA Island habit or having a positive impact on other issues facing the world. In the episode Hold the Ice, she's the one who got the jetpack penguins to go back to their icy island by solving their excessive snowmelt problem. In Bull-Busting Bandicoot, Coco saves Cortex's robot Broncos and Bulls from being dismantled by releasing them onto an open-range junkyard where they can roam free and eat all the nails and scrap metal they really want. Coco could be seen as representing a generational statement for her fantasy-like love for the environment and other passions which often lead to her forest for the trees decision-making. Aku Aku is a witch doctor which now lives as a floating, disembodied tiki-like mask. Aku Aku stands by Crash's side as his protector, voice of reason and wisdom and father figure. But he's not always right. He is ancient after all, randomly forgetful and consequently prone to leaving out bits of important information. He occasionally claims to be in touch with mysterious forces, which may or may not be true, and his advice may often be way off, making him seem like a bad fortune teller. In the case of such misfire, he may become self-conscious and a little neurotic and insecure and start wondering if he's doing things right. Am I coming on too strong? I just want this all to go well. I'll just be over here and poof, he may just vanish for a while. Overall, Aku Aku is a happy, good-hearted and peaceful being, and he knows when to take important matters like saving the world seriously. Nina Cortex is Cortex's beloved niece. She is a gothic, spiteful, antisocial teen girl, though she seems to despise being referred as such. Nina is more street smart and displays more common sense than her uncle, Dr. Neocortex. She has bionic hands made for grappling and crushing soft objects. Nina often seems to be more ambitious and egotistical than her uncle, who often dismisses her project. Actually, Tiny Tiger seems to be more attentive caretaker to Nina than Cortex. Now this is an interesting concept because that was never in any game. Like, I don't know if Nina, Cortex and Tiny Tiger even interacted in any game. I can't remember. Not counting the racing games, because then any character can say anything to another character during the race. But I'm just talking in general, like main games and stuff. No, like even in Crash of the Titans, they didn't. And that's like, I think that's like the only game where they both appear for like... well, they do appear both in Twinsanity, but Tiny Tiger is only seen in one scene, so I don't count that. Nina has a fierce rivalry with Coco Bandicoot. Nina hates unicorns and rainbows, but she often relies on Coco's brains to help her out. The two are like parsimonious girlfriends and are often forced to put their personal differences aside and work together. They are on opposite sides of the spectrum and are going to play comically off each other a lot. Now that's an interesting thing, that she's rivals with Coco and not like the enemy. Now this will be very interesting to see how they would interact, because this description doesn't seem like they would be fighting each other, trying to kill each other and stuff like that. Like, this will be really interesting. Dr. Nitrous Brio is a scientist who formerly worked under Dr. Neocortex. His name is often abbreviated to Embryo, a word play on embryo. As a child, Nitrous Brio was a classmate of Neocortex and Engine in Madame Amberley's Academy of Evil. Brio is responsible for creating the first fully functional Evolvo Ray. However, his lack of self-esteem allowed Dr. Cortex to take credit for the creation, and Cortex has always acted as a superior to Brio. Brio compensates for this by putting on the airs of someone who is much more sophisticated than Cortex could hope ever to be. Brio is the guy who brings the dollies to the lab so the bakers have something nice to sit upon. Brio probably sounds like Vincent Price. He is fastidious and well-mannered, which serves as a contrast to Dr. Cortex's megalomania. He assumes an air of cultured refinement which he knows Cortex can't possibly keep up with. It doesn't mean he's smarter than Cortex, but it's pretty good act and they'll play off each other very well. Secondary cast. Papu Papu is a tropical, of no discernible indigenous race tribal chief with a seemingly endless staff of tribesmen who look like a bunch of guys you'd find hanging out in a tiki bar. Wumpa Island was his initially, but has gradually become populated with our caste, who Papu Papu regards as intruders. Papu Papu has access to some degree of magical mysterious powers. Tiny Tiger is Neo Cortex's lackey, butler, slave, and a lab assistant. Like Frankenstein's Igor or Rocco's Muggsy, he is all those things and dumb as stick. Cortex loves having Tiny Tiger to order around and demean. If something goes wrong, Tiny is the first one to be blamed. Dingodile is one of the most intelligent of Cortex's henchmen, as his creator under the fusions of two animals. In general, he's Pyromaniac who is quite serious and seldom seen without his flamethrower. Despite his dangerous and cunning personality, however, like many enemies of Crash, he's often buffoonish and reckless in his own trigger-happy destruction, often giving Crash the key to his downfall. Ripperoo is famous for his insane, psychopathic, and lunatic behavior. As a result of his insanity, he can be fearless, reckless, and funny. He has also proven to be highly resilient to pain, either getting knocked out cold, becoming dizzy, or just laughing it off. He doesn't seem to be truly evil and only does what he does because of his insanity and inability to think clearly. Koala Kong is a hot-tempered and dim-witted strongman of the original Cortex Commandos. He's extremely self-absorbed and obsessed with his own muscles, constantly flexing and showing them off, which can sometimes distract him for responding to imminent danger. King Chicken was once an ordinary scrawny chicken, but was changed forever in the cartoon Cluck Off and Fry when Crash fed King too much Cortex super feed. He's now the smartest and swankiest chicken you'll ever meet. Story. Humor. How far will we go? The comedy in the show will be outrageous, crazy, and wild, but not in bad taste. Overly gross jokes and the like are just too easy to make. We're going for something even more clever. We may occasionally approach the line, but we'll swear away before ever crossing it. Of course, Crash Bandicoot is our lead character, but not every 7-minute cartoon story will feature Crash. Because there are so many characters and environments in Crash Bandicoot universe, we can and will jump all over the place. We will pair up, mix and match, and feature any and many of our characters in whatever ways we want and sometimes not want. We want people coming back for the comedy, which will make them laugh, but also hopefully later make them think about what made them laugh. Yes, the stories are silly, but we are highlighting and satirizing aspects of the human condition we can all relate to, while dropping the occasional piano on someone. BAM! Sample story premises. Cluck Off and Fry. That's very funny reference to Fuck Off and Die. I like this title of episode. Farmer Ernest buys some contaminated feed wholesome from Dr. Cortex that genetically mutates the chickens on his farm, turning them all into chickens from hell. The only desire to be eaten. Crash must help contain the foul fall that rampage the island, demanding that people eat them. The problem is finally solved when Aku Aku convinces everyone to turn vegan and the chickens lose their life's purpose. The depressed chicken's existential problem is finally resolved when they band together and open Mother Clucker's successful vegetarian drive-thru franchise. Mother Clucker, motherfucker. I like this. Beach Blanket Bandicoot. An innocent day at the beach turns from paradise to peril as Crash faces off against beach bully Koala Kong for the beautiful Tana's affections. Crash and Kong beat their daylights out of each other as they try to impress the girl with a variety of beach stunts and antics. Their duel is interrupted when a gang of hungry land sharks invade the beach. Aku says, "We're gonna need a bigger Bandicoot." Now what I'm gonna say here is that the land sharks, that's a pretty good detail because the land shark is a scrapped character of CDR 2010, and I really like this idea. I wonder how Tana would be drawn. Probably something similar to like Jessica Rabbit, because like when you compare the other characters, they're all in crazy style, and how Jessica Rabbit looks more realistic and like good looking. So I think they'll probably go something similar to that, but it's just my guessing. There was no illustration of Tana from this cancelled cartoon from what I know. If you know somewhere more characters that are described here, if the pictures have been shown, like shared drawings, please let me know. Good night, sweet Bandicoot. The play on the word night because it's spelled with K, because it's like not like it's night, you know. Crash is happily wandering through a fantasy fairy tale world when he sees a princess and immediately falls in love. Cheating on Tana, I see. So maybe that's why she left him for Pinstripe. Maybe Crash was the one first to cheat. The princess is quickly snatched up by a mysterious black knight, Cortex in disguise, and swept away. Aku decks out Crash with a very fancy suit of armor, and Crash sets to rescue the princess. After battling a myriad of monsters, Crash confronts Cortex but tricks him by sneaking out of his armor and attacking Cortex from behind. Cortex is defeated. The princess is grateful but disappointed that Crash isn't the handsome hero she was hoping for, and she falls in love with Crash's empty suit of shining armor instead. She leaps into its arms and falls off a cliff with it. That would be very funny to see. What a baby. Cortex is making an internal life ray when a tiny tiger accidentally hits Cortex with the ray, turning Cortex into baby Cortex, an awful nightmare of a baby. Nina reluctantly takes on the role of babysitter for the worst baby in the world. At her wits' end, Nina calls upon Coco Bandicoot for help. Baby Cortex escapes and is on the loose, being an awful and evil as a baby Cortex can be. The two girls must put their personal differences aside and capture baby Cortex, fix the eternal life ray, and restore baby Cortex back to his old self. Bull-busting Bandicoot. A rodeo setting, Cortex is building a robot broncos that are designed to destroy all contending buckaroos. The robot broncos are ridiculous but dangerous. Tiny Tiger, Ripperoo, and Dingodile are all knocked out of the competition, leaving only Crash, who in order to win the trophy must face a final challenge. Cortex unleashes his ultimate jet-powered super dynamic Bullosaurus Rex as the final challenge in the rip-roaring rodeo. Things take a turn for the worse when Cortex finds himself strapped to his own creation, but it's Crash and the rodeo clowns that finally do him in. Not so gladiator. Crash is kidnapped by Neo Cortex, who has constructed his own Roman Colosseum. If Crash wants out, he must face a series of mutants, including Dingodile, the Komodo Bros. I think that's a misspell in the Bible. I think it's the Komodo Bros. And Tiny Tiger in gladiator combat. The cartoon climaxes with a chariot race that tops Ben-Hur. The reckless and dangerous race literally brings the house down. Big Top Bandicoot. Dr. Cortex always wanted to rejoin the circus. Now he has constructed his own evil circus. It has its own evil midway, evil rides, and a mutant show. For the grand Big Top show, he presents a Nitro Circus style stunt competition and lures Crash to compete against Ripperoo for a ridiculous prize. It's Crash Bandicoot vs Ripperoo in a daredevil competition to end them all. The stunts get more and more intense and dangerous as the two try and outdo one another. Crash keeps winning, which drives Cortex crazy. The final stunt challenge takes place on a roller coaster ride, specifically designed to make Crash crash. Vortex in the Cortex. Cortex's overworked brain escapes from his skull to go on a much needed vacation. I remember how evil twins got Cortex's brain in Twinsanity. I wonder will this have them. A tiny tiger takes Cortex's brainless body to the secret brain vault, where he tries out several replacement brains, but they're all goofier than the original and don't work. This sequence is intercut with various gags of Cortex's brain enjoying itself on a vacation where it meets up with Crash. Together like old friends, they enjoy surfing, scuba diving, and local cuisine, etc. Back in the lab, Tiny tries one last brain. It doesn't work either. It turned Cortex into a sweet, polite, nice person who just wants to clean the lab. And it won't leave Cortex's head. Finally, Cortex's brain gets homesick. It misses trying to destroy the world. It takes Crash for a lovely time, but says, "I have a world to destroy," and returns to the lab. However, he must fight the other brain to regain his spot in Cortex's skull. Cortex finally gets his brain back and hires the other one as an enthusiastic butler. That's a bit a weird episode, but yeah, it could be nice. Who knows? Super cute. Cortex has a meeting with all the evildoers and decides that only by working together will they be able to destroy the world. They're each given an assignment, weapon, and turned loose in massive wave of destruction. Aku Aku tells Crash that he must turn into a superhero in order to fight the evildoers. Aku takes Crash to see Papu Papu, who gives Crash a sacred totem that grants him a variety of incredible powers. He is now a superhero. The trouble is, Crash has the control over his new powers. Crash literally crashes around and miraculously defeats each villain quite by accident, which is surprising out of control powers. Crash finally faces off with Cortex. Cortex and Crash fight over the totem, and during the fight the totem is exchanged back and forth, briefly granting them powers alternatively. During the battle, disappointed and angry Papu suddenly appears. He takes the totem. Crash and Cortex beg Papu to give them each one final power. Papu agrees. "Come back to my temple," he says, "and I will grant you both power, a power you cannot imagine." We cut to Papu's temple. Papu tells Cortex and Crash, "You do not need superpowers to be a hero. All you need is a vacuum and some stone polisher." Crash and Cortex are handed the tools and are forced to polish the temple while Papu sits there eating grapes. "You missed a spot. Ha 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 ha. Mine, all mine." Coco finds a treasure map and X marks the spot. The spot, however, is in a scary jungle cave. Coco enlists the help of her brother Crash to go first. To make the matters worse, Koala Kong is onto the map and he follows Crash and Coco. Inside the temple cave, Crash faces treacherous booby traps and a persistent Koala Kong. It's a race to the spot which Coco wins. When Coco opens the giant X-shaped door, the treasure turns out to be a very angry Papu Papu who attacks the raiders of his temple. The following minecart chase fight brings the whole place down around the three idiots. Hold the ice. Tired of global warming, Crash, Aku, and Polar head to the snow for a fun-filled snow sport competition. Unfortunately, their competition are dozens of jetpack-powered penguins who are dynamos and win every sport. From the lodge downhill, slalom, snowboarding, ski jump, ice skating, and even curling, the penguins win everything. Feeling like bummed-out losers, Crash, Aku, and Polar decide to leave defeated. Wait a second, how is Aku even competing here? He doesn't even have a body. How is he even losing to, like, can he just hover anywhere? Like, I would like to see that. We cut to Aku, Crash, Polar on their surfboards, peacefully waiting for the next wave. How is Aku surfing? Aku confirms that penguins aren't tropical, so they can relax. A big wave rolls up and our heroes are horrified to see dozens of penguins on surfboards hanging 10. Wipe out! Elementary School of Evil. Brio and Cortex are reminiscing about their old school days. They argue about who was the evilest student. A series of flashback gags show them as kids pulling terrible evil tricks on each other at evil school. Finally, back in the lab, they wind up in a real fight and cause an explosion that destroys the place. The smoke clears out and Madam Amberly shows up out of nowhere and stamps red F's on both of their foreheads. Ants in my pants. Cortex and Brio create nano robot termite ant farm. The robot termite ants can eat anything and everything, and the doctors intend to unleash them on the world. But Dr. Brio drops the farm and the termite terrors are turned loose in the lab and start eating things. Everything. The doctors engage in fierce battle with the organized robot termite army. It's evil versus appetite. In description, they call Dingodale's exclamation service, which only makes things worse because now the lab is on fire. They decide the only resource is to set up a picnic in the backyard and lure in the termite ant army. They quickly invent a robot termite ant attracting jelly for their sandwiches and set up a picnic. But klutzy Brio spills it all over their clothes. The hungry robot bugs go straight for the doctors, hence the title. The closing act. Crash Bandicoot fans are fanatical. They've been insanely loyal for 25 years all over the globe. The games have sold over 60 million units up to date. The Crash Bandicoot is a pop culture phenomena. The fans are faithful and are waiting for a cartoon show that's designed with their mites in mind. Crash Bandicoot N.Sane cartoon show will celebrate the Crash's universe in all comedic, mischievous, chaotic glory. Oh, and if we didn't say it, it will be insanely funny. The end. Why? Why did you have to cancel this? This was a art of perfection in making. This would be one of the best cartoons ever made. Just by looking of the reading this, like a plots for the episodes and everything. It's crazy, man. All over a fucking joke dispute. Are you fucking kidding me? Honestly, after reading all this, I can just say fuck you Amazon and fuck you Activision. Both of you are at fault here. Amazon for trying to downgrade the show to be kid-friendly, and Activision for canceling instead of switching a publisher for cartoon. They could have just tried to ask, like, are you telling me that no platform would be willing to put this on? Like, okay, Netflix and Amazon Prime are not the only two platforms for this. Hulu, HBO Go, YouTube Premium, Google Play Store, iTunes, Tubi TV. Probably there's some more that I don't know, but the point stands, there are so many more options. I'm really sad about this, especially after reading this. Hope you guys enjoyed the read with me, and the links are in the description. Sign a petition, spread the hashtag. We need to try to uncancel this. It is our duty of being fans.